What's going on, everyone? So today we've got maybe a good thing, maybe a bad thing, depending on how much you enjoy Sabine. But the new set for Sabine. Now, I didn't make really a video for set 3 Sabine because it doesn't really get any better. Like, Yularen was pretty good in some decks, but realistically, the Rebel package is what you want to focus on. And so we got set 4 Sabine now, which does have some amazing additions, and we'll talk about them and actually play some games here with them because CareBest actually has the brand new set 4 cards on it. Before we dive into the list, I just want to give a big thank you to my patrons over on Patreon. Thank you so much for supporting the channel and also joining me for a lot of the tournaments and giving me feedback on all of that, as well as I have a TCG player link in the description down below for any set 4 cards you want to pick up. Let's talk about Sabine, the new set 4 additions, and let's see how strong it is. So of course, we are playing the classic Sabine, which means we have a lot of the classic cards. We're playing Sabine Green. We've got the pretty standard Rebel package. A lot of the cards you'll see in the early turns. A-Wings, Marines, Sabines. We've got Wing Leaders, Cassians, Fleet Lieutenants. Wing Leader and Fleet Lieutenant being their huge payoffs for having a lot of Rebels. Red 3s. We've got the K2. We have the ECL targets in Poe Dameron and Wrecker, which are the basically only Rebels that are non-Rebels that are in the deck. But then we have some new additions alongside the Rebel Assaults, Timelies, and Darksabers that are kind of filling in the cur or filling in kind of the event/upgrade slot, as well as for a cause. We have Y-Wings, a brand new set 4 card, which does a ton of indirect damage. Oftentimes, the first turn that you play it deals 2 damage to their base, because they'll have some sort of unit that they'll take the indirect damage for. But then afterwards, it really starts to stack up immensely. It's also a Rebel unit, which is really important, and a vehicle. We have Blue Leader, a 3/3 ambusher in space on 3 resources, which is excellent against the opposing A-Wings, Y-Wings, or any deck that's looking to go to space. Cartel Spacer gets absolutely demolished by it. We also have the ability to play it as a 5/5 ambusher for 5, which is really, really good. We have Biggs and R2 as our pilots. R2 is maybe the best addition from set 4, at least in my early experience. This guy, for a 0 cost +1/+1 bump on any unit in the early game, is really strong. In some decks, it's disgusting, and against other decks, it's just good. But yeah, this can absolutely save a game. Then we got Biggs, a 1 cost pilot to give +2/+1, and most often Overwhelm. And then we have a couple of transports that can go ahead and get that +0/+1. These 2 pilots are really the amazing additions. I haven't been able to see any insane new units being added to the deck. It's really just like these very cheap or free cards that make this deck way more aggressive. Obviously, the Y-Wing is one of those additions that is new and is a solid unit. We also have 1 copy of Millennium Falcon. That's just to add another vehicle to the pile. And another 3-drop, which I was kind of looking for, because you don't really want to be playing Blue Leader as just a 3/3. I'd rather be playing like Millennium Falcon, Wing Leader, Fleet Lieutenant, Red 3, those types of cards. And so I just wanted another 3-drop as far as I found. But realistically, in my early testing, Biggs and R2 are the ones to watch out for in terms of just so much value with so cheap cost. And that's what really causes this insane curve out. And of course, because we're using Biggs and R2 as our pilots, we really want a lot more vehicles. So we do have the 6 turn 1 space unit along with, 7 turn 2 space unit, or rather, 10 turn 2 space unit for the 4 cost turn, where we have the Sabine flip. We can go ahead and deploy some upgrades as well as another 3-drop, which is really quite excellent, right? It's why we have such a big density, because Biggs costs 1. We have Rebel Assaults, which cost 1, and we can use it on the Sabine flip turn. But we'll see how well this performs, as I think Sabine's already good. But will the pilots make it a little bit better? I think so. Let's dive into it. Game number 1 against Ray Red. This is a hand which I don't think I would want to keep. I think I'm going to mulligan this one. It is reasonable. And of course, I mulligan into a hand with 0 turn 1 plays besides this R2. And now we are in probably an extremely worse position. We have a lot of turn 1 plays, but unfortunately, R2 is going to be our turn 1 play. I was going to say, we don't really want to be in a position where our opponent, wow, when we drew Wrecker Poe, this is some really awful draws here. Let's go with red 3 here. But we really want to have something better than a Y-Wing against Rey specifically on turn 1 because of the Tarkin Town, right? We want a little bit more combat power. Unfortunately for our draws, we drew some of the most expensive cards in our deck, right? Darksaber, K2, Poes, Wreckers, all that good stuff. Let's just go ahead and attack into the Village Protectors. There's no reason to like sit here and try to save it. They can hit R2. It's totally fine. They were going to do so anyways, essentially. Another R2 coming in. I think we will go with a Timely Intervention as the resource, because we will pilot up this red 3, I think is what we want to do. And we'll see what my opponent has. If we pilot up the red 3, there could be some removal, but I think we have such an awful start that we need to be lucky a little bit here in terms of them not having like any perilous position or anything like that. We really need to avoid that type of stuff. So we will see what we've got here. Let's go ahead and use the damage from Sabine because we will be deploying, so we're going to lose initiative anyways. But yeah, really awful turn 1. They're going to pass, huh? Do they have a takedown here? Let's go get down K2 and we'll see what they decide to do. If they pass again... Wow, they're going to take down... Okay, they're going to take down the red 3. I think that makes sense. I think that makes sense. Definitely to keep initiative here for them. Let's go ahead and resource this Cassian. They can go on and take out red what's it called? The Sabine, which also makes sense. And we'll see what my opponent has as a follow-up. They just have a A-Wing, huh? Okay, I'm just going to put down a Poe Dameron. I think that's going to be pretty strong because it's something they kind of are forced to deal with their resources. And we still have ECL available for the Wrecker to follow up, which is pretty nice. Rebel Assault, don't know if it's going to really be all that valuable. They have a perilous position to go ahead and exhaust the Poe Dameron. That's fine. We'll just get in for 4. They're going to activate Rey, huh? So I think what we will do here, deal a damage to each base. And I mean, we want to ECL out Wrecker for sure, but I think we will just play out Wrecker very easily. No destruction of resource. We're just going to get a body on the battlefield. And yeah, they can go ahead and deploy Rey, but it doesn't really matter, to be honest. They can force throw. What are they going to discard? I guess if they have a big unit, they can go ahead and kill Wrecker. That's not bad. Yeah, I guess if they have double force throw, it ends up pretty bad for us, but can't really be playing around that. They're going to hit Poe Dameron, huh? That makes sense because of the, what's it called? The Tarkin Town here. And I think we will just discard Wing Leader to go ahead and... I don't know. I think we'll just timely out a Poe Dameron. So I've been doing this because we're going to deal 2 and make an opponent discard a card. So we'll deal 2 to the base, make them discard a card. But I'm doing it this way because we want to get rid of the restore ability. And also, I didn't want to ECL out because we could just spend our resources, right? And they're going to claim initiative, which means we're going to deal 1 to each base. And that should give us the out here. We'll resource this Sabine because we'll be able to go Cassian plus Fleet Lieutenant, which is going to deal 5. So even if they deal with both of these units, we still have the Sabine action to finish it off. And we haven't even used ECL. I was being conservative because I thought our opponent would have just a little bit more productive things to do in the ground to where we would actually need to use it. And if we were a little bit more proactive, then our opponent wouldn't have been able to do... Oh, I should have gone with a Fleet Lieutenant. That was silly. That was totally silly. I don't know why I didn't do that. That was just totally silly. But now they have to take initiative. We win anyways. I should have just done a Fleet Lieutenant. I was thinking that, okay, they have to have something, but yeah, Fleet Lieutenant on the K2 would have just won. That was a total punt. But yeah, I should have used the ECL earlier. I mean, obviously, because I didn't get to use it at all. But I was thinking, okay, our opponents don't really have anything on the board. We can tackle it now. We can play it. And then in a situation where they do have exactly the right answers, we can still ECL out something later on. But the way it worked is like, I can't really wait to deploy Wrecker because it's just a little bit too bad, right? And then if I ECL up Poe Dameron, I can, but I didn't really have that much to really get value from it. So I think it's totally fine to do it this way, and we ended up winning anyways. Our opponent just left. Into the next game, we've got a completely reasonable hand here, and I will go with the Y-Wing probably on turn 1. We're going to resource that timely, but we're just going to get down the Y-Wing and see what my opponent has as the Piet Yellow on the other side of the battlefield. We're probably going to see a little bit of crazy stuff on Carabas here because of the set 4 cards. People are testing them out, but it just goes to show you, you know, Sabine's still going to be queen of the meta. Absolutely. Let's go ahead and claim initiative. Don't really see a reason to try to use Sabine action here. I'd rather just get an attack guaranteed with this Y-Wing. And ooh, Millennium Falcon plus R2 and Biggs. That is something that I will be playing this turn. Absolutely. We're going to make them kind of divvy up their indirect damage as they deem fit. They can deal 2 to Bib and then 1 to the base, which makes a lot of sense. But as I said in my intro to the video, that's kind of how this card works. Minimum is a situation where we get 2 damage to their base and 2 damage to a unit. Looks like they have an event, so maybe 4-cost event. I'm curious to see what it could be. It's going to be a resupply, huh? So they get 1 extra resource. Yeah, sure. We're going to go Millennium Falcon. And then we have the R2 plus Biggs, and that can go on our Y-Wing, or it can go on something else. But that also gives us an opportunity to deploy 3 separate plays in the following turn, right? With the Sabine, which is going to be excellent. We also have the Darksaber, but honestly, do I care about the Darksaber, or would I rather go Wing Leader? I think I'd rather go Wing Leader because then I can make the other plays as well. And I think that's going to be way more important. So Wing Leader on Sabine, Wing Leader on Y-Wing, all of that's going to be pretty good. I haven't seen a yellow Piet yet. That's pretty cool. Bib Fortuna with some of the good events can be pretty sweet. They've got a sneak attack. What are they sneak attacking out? They're trying to do a Quinton's Assault Cruiser. So that's one thing with the Bib Fortuna that I don't necessarily like, which is you can't use the Piet ability if you are trying to do something like that. Looks like they grabbed the Cruiser, huh? Okay, yeah, they're going to get in some damage. That's going to be pretty nice because they're going to be able to ramp. So nice triple dark raid with Bib. Don't mind that one at all. They're going to be able to grab, I suppose, the Millennium Falcon and kill that, which is going to be pretty nice. We will go ahead and load up. Yeah, we'll play it as a pilot. And they are going to be able to deal the 3 indirect damage to their Assault Cruiser, which is going to be very good for them. So really nice situation for them, right? This is the exact perfect hand, really, that my opponent wants. Early ramp into an early ambusher to deal with a space unit. And they happen to get really lucky because they have our Quinton's Assault Cruiser in hand, which they can go ahead and play. And they got one off Triple Dark Raid. So really nice situation for my opponent there. And now we will just go ahead and get down the Y-Wing or the Wing Leader on the Sabine. And they can go ahead and just deal a bunch of damage to the Cruiser. It's going to bounce to their hand anyways. We'll flip Sabine. We will Wing Leader up the Sabine. We will attack in for 4. And then we will pass. Poe Dameron, pretty nice draw here. We'll go ahead and resource that red 3. ECL out that Poe Dameron. To go ahead and just start get rid of stuff. They're going to have a sneak attack. They could Devastator down a Sabine, which if they have Devastator, the game's probably over. So really insane things from the Piet over here. But again, this is exactly what Piet wants to do, right? And especially against these space decks, the Assault Cruiser is going to be a way better card. So really cool stuff from Piet with that Triple Dark Raid grabbing that Cruiser. Love that stuff. Love it. Let's see what my opponent has to follow up, though. Bib Fortuna doing some decent work here. Not going to lie, guys. Pretty good stuff. They've got sneak attack. They can go ahead and play out the Cruiser. They can go ahead and kill the Y-Wing. I assume they kill the Y-Wing. I would be surprised not to see the Y-Wing kill. Let's go ahead and... Do I want to kill Piet? Can they get it on a capital ship for 5? Actually, not sure. Because if I ambush out Piet, I can discard a card to kill. Yeah, let's go ahead and just discard. Let's go ahead and hit the Piet. Just get rid of him. That'll leave Poe Dameron on the battlefield. And they only have 3 resources. So 3 resources are going to make it so that they really don't have too many options to play. We know they had a sneak attack, and we know they had at least 2 cruisers in hand, because they had one in hand while trying to play sneak attack, and they have the triple dark raid to grab one. So it looks like they're going to play a new Bib. Okay, I suppose. It doesn't really change Bib, because I'm never hitting Bib in my life. But despite the absolutely insane early Arquintons Assault Cruiser into a second Arquintons Assault Cruiser, we are still in a pretty good spot here. So love to see that. Like, we're on 20 damage onto the base. We have 3 good threats. Best thing they can play here, maybe a Devastator, as I mentioned, killing Poe, blocking the wing leader. They'll have Sabine to deal with, which is going to be pretty brutal. Looks like they have another sneak attack, so they could play a lot more things here. It's going to enter play ready, which is going to be pretty important. Absolutely. They've got a strafing gunship, huh? Interesting. Well, you can deal 3, 5, 6 with the Rebel Assault. I think we just get in with Poe Dameron. Get in with Poe Dameron. We'll discard a card. And we'll actually just discard 2 cards, because we will deal 2 to their base and then make them discard a card, so they have no other options in their hand. And that means that Sabine's going to finish out the game. And look at that. They kept both cruisers. So despite my opponent having one of the better Piet starts in dealing with our space aggression, still closing out the game as per usual. And you saw there with the R2 and the bigs, we actually just got in immediate damage, which is what you're looking for those cheap resources. On another note, because they had the cruiser, it probably would have been better to hold on a Darksaber and go all in on Sabine. I was trying to divvy up my threats and go a little bit more into space in case we draw the pilots, but I've never played against Piet Yellow, so I didn't necessarily expect the cruisers, sneak attacks, triple dark raids, and all this type of stuff. Really sweet game. Still ended up pulling out the win. Into our next game here against Obi Yellow. I'm going to go and resource our 2 events, and we're going to start off with a Battlefield Marine. Looks like they've got an R2 here. We're going to go ahead and deal damage to each one of us, and we're going to pass. Got ourselves a Sabine and an A-Wing as a follow-up. Don't know if I really want the Sabine here. A-Wing could be relevant, and we'll see what my opponent has here. Looks like now there are 2 of them. What an insane start for my opponent, by the way. That is probably as good as it gets. I don't really know how you can get better than that. that is literally as good as it gets. So really good stuff from my opponents here in terms of value for their deck. Let's go ahead and just deploy out the bigs as a pilot on the red 3 and hope they don't have like a takedown. So really, really sweet stuff. They got the forces with me. They're just going to get in for some damage, and I totally respect that. Let's go ahead and get down an red 3 attack in here. And then we'll go ahead and deploy Sabine. We'll go ahead and attack into their base. We'll play out the blue leader. And then we'll pass. Got a for a cause, which could be relevant. But I don't think so. I think this game's going to end very quickly, especially with them just going all in on Plo Koon. Now, Plo Koon can kill Sabine here, but we went pretty heavy into space, and they have an Ether Sprite, which is going to be pretty nice for them. That means that I do get to get an attack in with Sabine, which I think... I don't know. Are we just dead? I think we're just dead. Like, I don't know. I don't really see any situation out of this. Now there are 2 of them. can just win you a game very quickly, and that might have been just what happened. GG to our opponent. That initial situation where we had the battlefield rain and they had the now there are two of them on the initiative won them that game. Absolutely. Sweet stuff. And there you go. Now there are two of them still winning games. Absolutely love it. Got a Mace Windu Blue as the next up. We're going to mulligan this. No turn one plays. Pretty decent turn one play here, though. We'll get rid of the A-Wing, and we'll probably get rid of the blue leader, because I imagine my opponent's not going to have that many plays to make. They're going to claim initiative. We're going to go and get down that Y-Wing and then just deal 1 damage to each of us. Resource probably this red 3 here. I think it was funny, that last game that we played, Obi-Wan did literally nothing. That's one of the situations where honestly none of the leaders like that are usually played would have really done anything different. That's just a matter of our opponents just absolutely crushing it due to really just having the now there are two of them, which is absolutely insane. So let's go red 3 here. And I mean, Concord Interceptors is the perfect answer to what we got going on here. I'm not going to attack with a Y-Wing. We're just going to deal 1 damage to each, and then we're going to pass. We're going to resource this Cassium. Now we have multiple 4 drops plus a potential pilot onto the red 3, which will cut through that open Concord Interceptors, or that ends up happening. And you know what we'll do? We'll just deal damage and get down a Sabine. And that's totally fine. We will not really worry about getting in attacks here. The Concord Interceptors, no matter what spacing, like if this is what A-Wing, still wouldn't be able to attack. So this is just a good card against Sabine in general. And it's going to do some work. They're going to pass. We are going to pump up Sabine. We are going to attack in, and then we are going to pass yet again. So we got a Biggs, another Y-Wing, probably resource that second Y-Wing and then keep the Biggs. Got a Village Protectors, huh? Okay. Village Protectors is great as well. It's going to absorb quite a bit of damage here. Do I want to go? So I can go with the Biggs. We don't have a Mandalorian here. So I think we'll just attack in with the Sabine. And then we will ECL out the K2. And then we will just pilot onto... Whoops. Actually, this is fine. I was thinking that I didn't want to attack, but in this stage, I do actually want to get in damage because Mace Windu is coming down pretty soon. And they're actually taking the full... I would definitely have taken 3 to the base, and then I wouldn't have been able to attack with the Y-Wing again. I didn't really expect them to play in that way. I would have expected them to make it so that my Y-Wing would have had to die here. Because now, yeah, they get to kill Sabine, but we get in with the Biggs here, which is going to be a massive chunk, or the Y-Wing, massive chunk. We'll deal 3 to their base, and then we will go ahead and just get down a Cassian, who's going to be readied up immediately. Get in another attack here for 3, and then we'll pass. Fleet Lieutenant looks pretty good here. And we could resource probably this Y-Wing. They're going to go Mace Windu, kill my Y-Wing, probably. And we will go Fleet Lieutenant attack into their base for 5. They're going to get an attack in. We're going to ping them down. And now any action that we take is going to look pretty good for us. We can even play this Biggs out as a unit. They're playing Stila, huh? They're going to claim initiative. Okay, we're going to play out Biggs as a unit. And then we're going to pass. For a cause is going to finish out the game. Pretty interesting there. I think... I suppose they just deployed Mace Windu. I mean, they got a redemption here, which is going to be pretty nice. I shouldn't resource the Rebel Assault. But I made a mistake, and it is what it is. It's not like it's going to matter because we have double 4 cause, right? So 4 damage. Put that on top. Put that on top. Pass. We have another 4 cause. Like at this stage of the game, doesn't matter. The game's over. GG. As soon as I drew the double 4 cause, there's not a card that can really win the game. So at that point, brain kind of shut off, and don't really care. Should have resourced the Poe, though, in that situation. But realistically, that combination of 2 Sentinels is kind of what you want in the Mace Windu situation. It did block our Darksaber Sabine, and the Concord on Interceptors, we can't really get an attack without pumping them up. We could have put Bigs on it, but then they would have just taken 3 to their base, and then our Y-Wing would have died because we would have gotten an attack, and then Mace Windu could have pinged it down. I suppose their option, because they had a flip Mace Windu, that was decent. I'm trying to remember what they did last turn, because they played Redemption. I guess they take down plus Grenade Struck. Was that last turn? I actually don't remember what the turn sequence was, but I think I would have divvied up the damage a little bit differently. Regardless, the Concord Interceptor's kind of blocking our path, and we still managed to pull out the win. So pretty solid there. Into the next game, and this is going to be very interesting because we have a Colossus in a Palpatine deck. So that is something to be concerned about as a Sabine player. So really fun to see our opponent saying, "Put me on camera." We'll see if we figure out what to resource in a reasonable manner. Then I'm all for it. And they did. So good for them. Let's go to resource this Cassian and probably this Red 3 because we have kind of a Battlefield Marine into Fleet Lieutenant type turn. So we'll go Battlefield Marine, deal 1 damage to each of us, pass, got a Y-Wing, got a Red 3, probably just resource this Y-Wing. Dr. Pershing, going to start drawing them out of kind of the situation that they're in. We will just get in a damage for 5. They got a resupply. We will go ahead and claim initiative here. Got another Battlefield Marine, another red, or we got a Red 3, Key 2. I think we resourced this Battlefield Marine. Let's just start getting in some damage, I think. 5 resources when they can start deploying some things. So we will see what my opponent really has. I think we're just going to get in some damage here. Power of the Dark Side, kill a Fleet Lieutenant. Doesn't really matter here. We'll go deal some more damage. They're going to take initiative. We'll flip. We'll attack into their base. We'll play a K2. We'll pass. Got a Podameron, which we can ECL out. Or we just play Battlefield Marine Red 3, which might just be better. It might just be better. Am I resourcing the K2? Or am I resourcing the Podameron? I think I'd rather have the option of playing on a K2 over a Podameron. Because yes, they can deploy something, but Podameron just deals 2 damage to a base, really. And Red 3 has representation for way more damage. They're going to heal defeat, which is totally fine because we're going to get down to Red 3, as I mentioned. And we are going to Battlefield Marine. And now we're going to get in for a lot more damage here, right? Because we're going to get in for 5, and then we're going to get in for 4. And then we are going to have the option to really pump some damage here. And is this the time where I resource K2 and just utilize all these direct damage? Because Biggs can immediately go on this Red 3, which I think might be worth it. They could have another Vigilance, and Vigilance was a critical card for them there. Okay, we're going to go Rebel Assault, get in for this one and with this one. And we have 4 costs to finish out the game. Unless we get Timely Intervention, Darksaber, the game is over with the Rebel Assault. Say womp womp over there. So even the 35 HP with Colossus and Dr. Pershing, which might be the single best option on turn 1 for my opponent, it is pretty unfortunate that we just ended up closing out the game. We had a lot of ways. We have the Cassian, the resource pile. We have the For a Cause. But they had a decent hand. I just think it was still just a little bit too slow. Right? They had the Pershing to draw out of the 1- card from Colossus, but we just still pumped crazy amounts of damage. And that wasn't even a set 4 Sabine, really. That was just a standard set 3 Sabine. No pilots or anything like that really to be had in that game. Into the next game, we got ourselves a Luke on the other side of the battlefield, which is going to be absolutely sweet. We got a blue leader, which I am very excited about, by the way. I think I'll resource probably this Fleet Lieutenant, honestly, because I'm going to go Y-Wing into piloting up this Y-Wing with a R2, and then we're going to blue leader their A-Wing, which is going to be pretty sweet. We also drew the Wing Leader, which is a nice addition. Give us a couple of options, and we'll see what my opponent has. Let's go ahead and I suppose what we'll do is, do I want a wing leader? Puts us in a little bit of an awkward spot because they'll just take all the indirect damage into the unit, and then they'll finish it off with a Luke attack or a Luke trigger. I'm a little bit surprised that they had gone with the attack in. I suppose there might be a little bit more controlling than I am expecting, which is totally fine. And I think here we will just ECL out this K2 to prevent the healing starting with this Luke. And Concord Dawn Interceptors, huh? Bigs on the Concord Dawn Interceptors. Very interesting. So yeah, they're going to go for the... Put a big Sentinel in space, huh? Okay, that's totally fine. Let's go ahead and resource that blue leader because I want to go wing leader plus battlefield marine. I think my opponent's just going to go into space, and that's pretty fine with me in this stage. And here we can go in and I suppose just, do I want to attack? What could they have for 5 resources? I think I just want to attack in, or play a battlefield marine rather, and just see what my opponent's going to do with this attack trigger. They have a Kanan. That's totally fine. Let's go ahead and get in for 4 with the K2. Wing leader up the Sabine. Get in for a decent chunk here. Pass. We have the Wrecker that could come down here. Gonna kill the K2, which makes a good amount of sense. Let's go ahead and attack in for a decent chunk. Our opponent putting up a Sentinel in space, and this is something that I've seen a lot. There's a lot of Sentinels in space for sure. And I don't think it's really all that relevant. Let's go ahead and play a Wrecker, put 5 damage onto the Luke. And now they have a choice. Anything, and they can kill Sabine, but I'm surprised they didn't kill Sabine. I guess they can't really. They're going to play Biggs as a unit. Oh, they forgot it was unique. Okay, makes sense. Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised because like a lot of the decks that I've seen a lot is they're playing a lot of Sentinels, which is fine. But Sabine has this dynamic where you can go to the ground, you can go to the space arena, and it really just depends on which situation you're in. So I really find it extremely beneficial to just go ahead and start dumping. And here we'll just play out the double battlefield marine. I got in the attack with Sabine because I'm hoping my opponent, just to avoid like a Luke Skywalker or something like that. They're going to go ahead and pass or go ahead and concede the game. Not Luke Skywalker. I meant like Rival's Fall or something to kill Sabine. So I wanted to guarantee the most damage possible. But as I was saying, these Sentinels are great for stopping the space combat and everything. And honestly, Conqueror Interceptors is good. But like the balance between like trying to go a little bit of ground with some restoring and such. I've seen the Luke a little bit. I like to just all in on the fighters and really take control of the space arena because you really want to use Luke action every single turn and you want to deploy him as a pilot. And so if they went the aggressive route, they might have been able to race me where they get the A-wing, they kill my other guy, they go all into space, and they just keep attacking. But the Conquered Interceptors doesn't really bode well for attacking. And then they did go with a Yoda on turn 2, which wasn't really super productive, right? It's a 2/4. So kind of interesting. It's an interesting way to build Luke. And I haven't necessarily seen the restoring package with it. I've seen Double Red Luke. I've seen like a Luke Green. I've seen the more aggressive versions. And I think that's the way I have found more success with Luke. But, we got infinite amount of time to test with Luke. I'll tell you that much. On to the next one. Finally sitting with initiative, and we've got a pretty nice hand on our hands. We got initiative, so we can go with the A-Wing, and we have a lot of space backup to protect the A-Wing. So I think against the new Boba Fett, I definitely want to head in that direction. Got a double wing leader here. I think I will resource probably this Rebel Assault. And I'm just going to go with Wing Leader. The Silencer just dies to a Wing Leader attack. So I'm just going to go in on this A-Wing with these experience tokens. And I'm imagining my opponent doesn't really have an answer for this. At least in terms of typical Boba fashion. They could have like a Waylay Triple Dark Raid as the play here. That is very, very, very aggressive. Or a situation where they just want to find a way to deal with my... Wait, oops. Sorry, I didn't realize. I actually didn't realize they used the boba trigger. And so I meant to deal all the damage to our base. We're just going to hit them for 5. They can go ahead and figure out what they want to do with this Fet's Fire Spray. Really nice Triple Dark Raid. That's probably the best hit they could have gotten in this spot. And they're going to attack my ECL, huh? So we will go ahead and deal 1 to the A-Wing and then 1 to the base. I'll go ahead and claim initiative. They'll go ahead and attack in with that Silencer, probably. And then they're going to bounce that back to hand. We'll resource this Poe Dameron, and we're going to have a wing leader plus a Biggs, or just a blue leader here. Get rid of this Silencer. Nice, easy, very solid trade there. So as you can see, the indirect damage deck just absolutely smashes in terms of damage for sure. Let's go ahead and deal a couple damage to our base here. Boba Fett just absolutely wrecking in terms of damage. We have a blue leader. I think what we'll do is play this unit as a pilot. That's going to give this an absolutely massive amount of stats, because then we will also go wing leader on the A-Wing, overwhelm through. Oh, wait. Okay, that should have overwhelmed, but it didn't. That's okay. We should have gotten in 9 damage, so 5 damage into the base is what should have happened there. Unfortunately, we did not get the 5 damage into base, so not quite there. We can take another damage over here. Really unfortunate that that is what ended up happening, because we should have 100% gotten 5 additional damage into the base. And by the way, if that was the case, we would have been able to Rebel Assault and just completely overwhelm them in terms of DPS here. Let's go ahead and pay 2. And then pass, just to create a big blue leader. Get ourselves a Wrecker. I suppose we'll keep that over the Y-Wing. They can deploy, which is going to deal 4 damage against any amount of units here. Not quite enough, because we do have this Rebel Assault here, which is going to get in for exactly lethal. But yeah, we should have been closer to lethal there. Our opponent with the Triple Dark Ray with the Fet's Fire Spray dealt so much damage. You saw there, we dealt it all to our base, which is kind of what we have to do as Sabine, except for 1 point of damage, which ended up dealing 7 damage with that Triple Dark Raid. Wing Leader was a great draw. And overall, that was just a pretty solid game. But you can see how much damage these Boba Fett decks just pump out. Really, really crazy stuff. But our aggressive nature, this Biggs would have been insane, as I said, with that overwhelm. Gives you the option to do this sort of aggressive yet board controlling attack, where you kill their unit and you get in damage, which is really important. The double wing leader was obviously amazing, and we had that blue leader that was versatile enough to actually end up being a 5/5 in the ground instead of being that space unit, which is perfect, right? That versatility also being a huge bonus with blue leader. And what better way than to leave it on a Sabine mirror? We're not going to mulligan this. We have 2 separate plays here. One being a space play and one being that ground play. We're going to resource this red 3, and we're going to kind of lane dodge here. They've got a Bo-Katan here, so we're going to go with the Y-Wing. And if they use the action, we take initiative. I would not think that my opponent's going to use that action, but maybe they think they are more aggressive than we think. So let's go ahead and pass. Don't need to use any action. I think we are going to outpace them over the course of time. So I think I'd rather go ahead and do that. Let's resource this Sabine and see what they're going to do with this Bo-Katan. They've got a Cassian, huh? Okay, so we'll go ahead and get in with the Y-Wing, and we'll see what they decide to do with this indirect damage. They can go ahead and deal with the Cassian. That's totally fine. We're going to get the Millennium Falcon down. And this is going to make it so that a lot of our units are just going to power through and have a lot more options for them. Timely Intervention is a really nice looking card at this stage of the game. So I'm actually going to resource this Battlefield Ring instead of the Timely because I might want to ambush something out in this stage. And I think I will. I think I will go Timely, Fleet Lieutenant, and then I will do the ambush first, hit the Bo-Katan, then I will attack in with the Y-Wing. We'll see if they decide to deal the damage to their Cassian here. And you can see this has already gotten in for that 3 damage now on that second attack, which is kind of the strength of Y-Wing. So pretty good stuff there. Activate Sabine. We will also activate Sabine. Let's see if they have a Darksaber. Darksaber could throw off our math a little bit for sure. But this R2 represents 2 damage on this Millennium Falcon. Just remember that. And that's going to be a free, absolutely free play. They got the attack in. We will get the attack in. I don't think we care about Cassian at all. We were going to pilot this onto the Millennium Falcon, which is going to get in for 5 at this point, which is really, really nice. So let's pass. We've got a Wing Leader and a Sabine. So really good stuff because we will probably just go ahead and ECL out this Sabine to potentially just kill the Cassian if they don't have something, but we'll see. They're going to attack in with that Cassian first. That is totally fine. We will, I suppose we can get in with the Sabine here. Because they don't really have any option to deal with these space units right now. I don't know if they're really going to have anything. Like they could have an aggression, I suppose, would be the best answer in this spot on the Millennium Falcon, which is what they have. So aggression is, as I said, the best answer to what could potentially happen here. And they would be able to kill the Millennium Falcon with that. So we're going to go Wing Leader, pump up that Y-Wing. And we're going to get in 3 damage here. They're going to be able to get in 7 total. And then if we draw like a Rebel Assault, that could be insane. Anything to use our ECL on is really, really good. Our opponent has gotten decently strong with what they've got going on here. Heroic Sacrifice. What a amazing follow-up. Really solid one for my opponent here. And we just claim initiative. We've got a lot of outs here, and Wrecker is one of them. And this is just, you know, ECL Sabine, despite being able to, you know, have our opponent have an amazing answer to kind of what we had at each stage of the game. The aggression on the Millennium Falcon, the heroic sacrifice with the K2SO to change the math insane amounts, right? That adds an additional 5 damage to the math there. The indirect damage being spread out actually prepped for that Wrecker kill, because if we had not had that indirect damage, yes, we would have gotten in more damage. I think over the course of a couple of attacks, we would have gotten in, 4? But then Wrecker would have only dealt 2. Instead of the full 7 or 6 rather. So I suppose it would have ended up in the same situation if we had the A-Wing versus the Y-Wing in that case. But also you'll have to remember that we did get in that full damage, I believe +1 damage with the Y-Wing. So it really depends on the situation. In this game, it actually ended up the same A-Wing versus Y-Wing. But A-Wing is one of the best cards in Sabine. So playing 4, 5, and 6 copies of A-Wing is exactly where you want to be. So Sabine Green, doing some work. So what did we learn with Sabine Green? Well, it's Sabine Green, guys. The classics are still there. K2s, Podamerons, Wreckers. It's definitely, as I'm going through these games, a little bit trickier because I'm trying to think of like what the new decks would be playing and the new cards that are in the meta, which obviously changes the math and everything. But you're still playing the core ECL portion K2, Podamer, and Wreckers. We have the Rebel package, Fleet Lieutenant, Red 3s, Wing Leaders, Battlefield Marines, Sabines, A-Wings. The new cards, Y-Wing, we saw in a couple games there where it was kind of equivalent to an A-Wing, which is great. It was in other games really good where it was just, dealing 4 damage, and in other games where it was dealing slightly less than an A-Wing, more like an Anakin's Interceptor. But it is also a Rebel, so it's like an X-Wing with a little bit of bonus, which is really, really important when you are considering upgrades for the deck. Blue Leader, we didn't really get to see any situation because we were on the initiative a lot. The Blue Leader didn't get to come out and like smack out A-Wings or Y-Wings out of the air. But we did get to see Biggs and R2 really perform in some of those games. Biggs coming in and just overwhelming through for massive chunks. R2 just being this free +1/+1. And a card that I haven't really decided on whether or not you should be playing more of is that Millennium Falcon. If you get a draw where you get the Millennium Falcon down and you can put a free R2 on it, it becomes a 5/5 space unit for 3 resources, which is incredible, right? Incredible. And then if you put a Biggs on it, it becomes, get this, not only do you get the 5/5 with R2, right? But then you get +2/+1 from Biggs, +1 from the Pilot, so +3/+1, and it's a transport, which means +3/+2, which puts it to an 8/7. And mind you, that is for 4 resources. 4! So that is and can be absolutely insane. It's also a Rebel, and I think that's the key, is a lot of these new additions that we're trying fit perfectly within Sabine. In previous sets, you like try a Yularen and it's not a Rebel, which can really harm the deck in some matchups, where in this, we have a Wing Leader in hand. Every card on our deck works with it, except for the ones that we're ECLing out, which should be ending the game for us, Podamer and Wrecker. But every other card on our deck works with it, which is exactly where you want to be. I think there's definitely some potential. I don't think this is the best makeup of set for Sabine, but I do think there is a lot of potential with things like R2 and Biggs and these cheap additions of immediate damage. I think there's potential for Blue Leader. The more I play with it, depending on the deck, it can be like an absolute game changer or just a card that's can be decent, oftentimes resourced in the wrong matchup. So that might be more of a sideboard option, but definitely worth experimenting, and also definitely worth seeing if there's going to be any new additions coming forward for Sabine, because there's been a lot of Rebel units. And there's a lot of different things you can go with, right? We have like the Red 5, the Deal 2, which can be interesting, which is a 3/4 space unit, kind of like Millennium Falcon. We have like Red Leader. We have like Snap Wexley, which I don't think is very good. We have like Leia, which can be interesting in the deck. The new Chewbacca, which we aren't even playing in this deck, by the way, but that might be an oversight. Definitely a lot of different options, and definitely can go different directions with the Sabine Green. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you all for the next one.